On the basis of working at Cambridge for 12 years, I have absolute confidence in the integrity of our hiring processes. What I would like to do is figure out what seems to have happened in this case.
The University of Cambridge is going to review its processes for appointing senior academics after Professor Jason Arday resigned following scrutiny over allegations of plagiarism. Arday was appointed Professor of Sociology of Education at Cambridge in 2023 and became the university's youngest black professor. A letter signed by a number of senior dons at Cambridge is now calling for a thorough, independent, transparent inquiry into the processes around Arday's appointment. Joining us now is a signatory of the letter, Professor Nick Guyatt, who's a professor of North American history at the University of Cambridge. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning.
What are the questions that you would like to be answered in an investigation?
Well, there are a few things I think that we're keen to try and get the university to address. But the first and most urgent one is the crazy climate that we have right now, just in terms of the media and the things happening on the internet with regard to what this whole saga means. And I mean, in particular, the coverage we've seen across so many of the newspapers and on the internet suggesting that this is the kind of tip of the iceberg on DEI, that this kind of woke gone mad attitude has somehow created Jason Arday, and that this is denying opportunity to white academics, to white students. I mean, I've worked at Cambridge for 12 years, and that narrative is completely false, but it's everywhere in the media. So one of the things we're asking for is to get the university leadership out in front of a microphone and to defend my colleagues who are black and brown and those people of colour across the country in academia who right now are essentially being told, show us your papers. You know, why don't you prove that you belong in your job, which is outrageous. This has been a real mask-off moment, I think, for the culture and for the media. So that's one thing. But of course, we're also asking, try to ensure that this investigation is independent, that we try and get to the bottom of what happened in this case, precisely because it's so important that we establish this is exceptional. This is such an unusual, extraordinary case, and actually isn't the tip of the iceberg.
You must be frustrated then, from the viewpoint you've come from the university that you work for, that they didn't put the proper checks and balances in place to allow this situation to develop.
Well, we have no idea what happened. I mean, at this point, what we need is for that investigation to take place as quickly as possible for us to understand exactly what happened. But you're right. I mean, I am frustrated in the sense that the university, either in its handling of the appointment or perhaps in its handling of the media kind of package around the appointment, essentially put us in a place where it seemed that Professor Arday was somehow representative either of a race or of a kind of, an inclusion agenda or whatever else. So it's really, really dangerous, I think, to place that burden on any one individual. So what I would like to hope is that the university can look at what happened, learn the lessons from that, but also work incredibly hard right now to combat this incredibly racist wave of commentary. I mean, I'm not calling you guys out, but I think across the media, it's been extraordinary to see the level, the intensity, the vociferousness of this attack on Professor Arday as some kind of DEI test case, which is absolutely contrary, again, to my 12 years of experience working at Cambridge.
But there are questions being raised about how this was able to happen. You must yourself have many questions as to someone who's, who could write on their CV that they work for some academic institution. To a quick phone call would establish, no, he'd never worked there. Why do you think that sort of very basic level of fact-checking wasn't done?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of questions, and that's exactly why this investigation needs to take place. But what I don't have questions about, and what I don't need a 6-month or 12-month investigation to tell me, is that the agenda of DEI or whatever else, is somehow kind of taking over Cambridge or taking over Britain.
But that,
I can
think,
tell you
isn't
because
what
I've worked in the sector that that's not true.
I'm sure that isn't what the investigation is going to be looking at. The investigation is going to be looking at how someone who didn't have the right credentials ended up with that job.
Yeah, and I mean, I think something else we need to say here is it's incredibly important, I think, that investigation first is thorough, so all aspects of this get examined, but also that investigation has people from the University of Cambridge and people from outside the University of Cambridge as well, that has clear parameters, and crucially, it has a clear timeline. I mean, we know this from politics. I imagine many of your listeners know this from their workplaces. Very often these investigations get set up and, 2 years later or whatever, they still haven't produced findings. What we need is a very, very clear directive here. We need involvement of people within and outside Cambridge, and we need a commitment to try and do this in a timely way and to share the findings with the public, because again, the media commentary around this has been completely toxic and it's setting back any kind of agenda of representation. I'm not talking about promoting diversity. I'm talking about having a university which looks like the society it serves. It's setting that agenda by years, if not decades.
The controversy has attracted, as you suggest, a range of opinions, not just in the media, but also including within academia, about whether he had been scrutinised unfairly because of his race. Do you have any suspicion that might have played any role?
Well, let me say this. You talk about the controversy, you talk about the furore this past week. We're in a situation right now in academia where 4,000 jobs are being lost to UK universities per year. There are far more black academics losing their jobs right now because programs are closing down than are getting their jobs through mistaken checks or through people believing the lies that they may or may not have told. There is almost no focus in the media on any of that. I mean, the redundancies in particular are destroying one of the crown jewels of our culture and of our society, which is British universities. And so I am, again, really, really looking askance at this incredible furore around one individual when that story of the dismantling of the entire sector virtually never makes it onto the news. And again, I'm not calling you guys out here. I'm sure you have covered this, but it doesn't get a tiny fraction.
But why do you think this happened?
I have no idea where this happened. And what we're trying to do is figure out exactly...
What are your suspicions? I mean, you're at the heart of the university. I don't know if you know Professor Jason Arday. I don't know if you've spoken to him or reached out to him.
I'm an academic. I don't have suspicions. What I try to do is figure out what the problem looks like, the sources I'm going to need to try and solve the problem.
What theories would you want to test then?
Thoroughly.
What theories would you want to test?
Again, I don't think this is rocket science. I mean, we're going to go off and we're going to try, I hope, as a university and look at all of the circumstances surrounding the appointment, look at all of the paperwork, look at whatever records there might be of the discussions, the debates, try and figure out whether any of the credentialing that had already taken place in the case of Professor Arday may now look as if perhaps, people have been telling us things, maybe referees or previous institutions that weren't true. I'm sure all of that will take place. But I mean, my suspicions, I think, are not very helpful here. What we ought to be trying to do is get this investigation off and running as quickly as we can and give it some kind of impact and involvement of people beyond Cambridge as well as within
I think it's less your suspicions, it's your experience and knowledge of presumably having gone through the hiring process yourself
I'll tell you frankly, I have never seen anything like this. And I can tell you categorically, in my 12 years at Cambridge and my 10 years as an academic before I came to Cambridge, I have never been in a job search, been on dozens of hiring committees where a person was hired because of their sex, because of their race, or because of any other characteristic. I have never seen anything.
But presumably they'd be hired based on the strength of the credibility of their CV. And that's where the problems lie here.
Well, yeah, and so what we have to try to figure out is what happened in this instance. I mean, I have no idea. I have no involvement whatever in the search, no idea whatever about what the quality of the other candidates look like, no idea of what happened in those discussions. But I can assure you, and I mean, I do want to do this because, again, for people that don't know how these things work, and especially people who are reading the newspapers, I can see why people are up in arms about this. I can assure you, as someone that works at Cambridge and has been in academia for more than 20 years, that this is not the way that searches work. And again, we don't know.
Final question. I'm so sorry, Professor, we are just short on time. Are you currently confident that Cambridge's hiring practices are robust?
I'd like to see our leadership get in front of a microphone and defend our black and brown staff and defend the integrity of all research and teaching at Cambridge.
That's not quite what I asked. So do you think the hiring processes currently are sufficient and robust enough that you'd be sure of the qualifications of the next professor that gets hired at Cambridge University?
On the basis of working at Cambridge for 12 years, I have absolute confidence in the integrity of our hiring processes. What I would like to do is figure out what seems to have happened in this case.
Nicholas, thank you very much. Professor Nicholas Guyatt, Professor of North American History at the University of Cambridge.
There you are. Your thoughts on that are already flying in. Keep them coming, and we'll read some of those in the next few minutes. You can WhatsApp us 0333 003 2353. Lots still to come. Months after it was revealed that a Labour think tank had paid a public affairs company to look into our Sunday Times colleague, the journalist Gabriel Pogrund, new allegations claim someone else has hired investigators to look into the reporter. We'll give you more details next. This is Rosie Wright and Calum Macdonald on Times Radio with Handelsbanken. Real relationship banking. Start your conversation at handelsbanken.co.uk.